order. Those in attendance, please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We would like to welcome all of our friends and neighbors and colleagues in joining us in this regularly scheduled July 15, 2024 City Council meeting. As you come in tonight, which would be to my right, to everyone else's left, there's a set of double doors. You'll walk through those double doors. There's a desk. On that desk, there's a sign-in sheet. If you're a guest with us tonight, please sign in. City Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Councilperson Morrissey.
Here.
Palladino.
Here.
Pratt. Here. Sharp.
Here.
Soha. Stuchel.
Here.
Beer.
Here.
Wolfram.
Here.
And Mayor Stockford.
Here.
You have one absent here.
Thank you, Katie. I have not heard from Rob, but Dave will not be with us tonight, so we've got plenty of city staff in the building to help us through this meeting, so we'll be just fine. Move on to approval of agenda. Council members have any changes to make to the agenda tonight? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Veer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We've got an agenda. We'll move into public comment on agenda items only. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium. And remember, this is on agenda items only. So if you're going to speak on something during this particular public comment period, please make sure it has a direct tie to something present on the agenda tonight. The podium is now open. Seeing no public comment, we'll close the podium. We'll move into the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we've got approval of bills, city and BPU claims of June 13th and June 27th. Payroll of June 20th and July 3rd. City council meeting minutes of June 17th. Finance minutes of June 17th and July 1st. Public service minutes of May 14th and June 25th. Election commission minutes of July 10th. Hillsdale College fireworks display approval. There's a Hillsdale College annual noise variance request and ratifications of signatures for park use agreement for domestic harmony. Is there any discussion on anything present on the agenda, on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Veer, to approve the consent agenda. Can I have a roll call, City Clerk?
Councilperson Palladino.
Yes.
Pratt. Yes. Sharp.
Yes.
Stuchel.
Yes.
Beer.
Yes.
Wolfram.
Yes.
Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
And Councilperson Morrissey.
Yes.
8-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. We will move into communications petitions. Item letter A, 2024 summer tax warrant. Kim?
So this is presented for your information, just, this is the official warrant for collections of the summer taxes.
Okay, any questions for Kim regarding this item? Thank you, Kim. We will move on to communications petitions. Item letter B, Kiefer House update. Nick?
Good evening. We are full steam ahead. Got a full house of every single trade you can imagine out there. We've got the carpenters, masons, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all working on top of each other, going pretty strong. We're completely framed, working on all the in-wall rough-ins, starting from the basement up, and then we'll move into drywall and just keep going. So it's been pretty good progress.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Any questions for Nick? Councilman Morrissey?
Quick one, when do you anticipate being able to get a certificate of occupancy?
We're working on I've had a couple structural issues that I had to attend to, so we have to move the schedule a little bit, but not by much. I don't know what that date is right now.
Thank you.
Yeah. Every time I open up a wall, I find something else I have to fix.
ETA?
Yeah, that's what we're working on as far as the schedule.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it'll be nothing in stone right this moment?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. Any more questions for Nick? Thank you. All right, I appreciate it, Nick. Okay, we will move into item letter C, Hillsdale County Commissioner update, Doug Ingalls. Commissioner Ingalls is not with us tonight, but he did send me an update. So I'll go over it real quickly here. Absentee ballots can be dropped off at the city clerk's office during business hours or at the absentee ballot drop box located just outside of City Hall. Here are the early voting schedules for this election, which is available on the county website. The first day of early voting will be Saturday, July 27th. That's from 8 to 4. The second day will be Sunday, July 28th, and that's from noon to 8. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will all be 9 to 5 p.m. Thursday is 11 to 7 p.m. That's Thursday, August 1st. Friday, August 2nd is once again 9 to 5 p.m. Saturday, August 3rd is 8 to 4 p.m. And then Sunday is noon to 8 p.m. Then election day, the polls are open, and that's Tuesday, August 6th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., which is typical. Because there are more than 2 candidates filed for Hillsdale City Council Ward 3, there is a primary race on August 6th for the Ward 3rd council person. So please encourage Ward 3 people to participate for that reason. And those 3 candidates are Bob Flynn, Matt Niffen, and Cindy Merritt. Is that correct? Okay. Very good candidates. That's exciting. Any discussion regarding Commissioner Ingalls' update on elections? Katie?
I just want to say too, that information is found on our website under the clerk's tab. You can find the voting information and the schedule for early voting and absentee information too.
Great, thank you, Katie. And I would encourage any of our residents, if they have questions about the upcoming election, they can contact the clerk's office, correct? Thank you, Katie. Okay. We will move into item letter D in communications petition, which is MERS annual actuarial report. And I'm not gonna go through all that unless you guys have something you wanna know about it. Councilman Beard?
Do we have anybody that can speak on it? Yeah, probably that's David. He's not here.
Yeah, that would be David.
Okay, well,
So-
my biggest question was that if you go on the MERS page 88 in the packet, if you go on MERS on the page 88 of the packet, it talks about the contributions. And my concern being that just to give you an example, assuming a 6.93% return on the investments going forward, currently it's funded at 77%. Going forward all the way to 2028, in 2028, assuming again a 6.93 return on the investments for all those consecutive years, we would have decreased down to 75%. And of course, if you get a more realistic 5.93, we go from 69% funding down to 68, and 4.93, 62 to 61. Now, further in the packet, I do see where the voluntary contributions are being raised, I believe, from 5 to 6, which I think might address these issues. I just have to see that. It kind of was wondering whether or not we need to increase our funding so we can stay compliant.
Oh, it's a good question, Councilman Beer. We can add it again to the next packet on communications petitions, and perhaps Dave can give us a better answer.
Yeah, I would agree with Tony that I think we should find out a little bit more about our compliance, and so maybe in the next council meeting we can have David talk about that.
Any more questions? Okay, we'll move move out of communications petitions and we'll move into introduction and adoption of ordinances / public hearing. As you all remember, at the last meeting, we put on hold our public hearing regarding the revocation of the industrial facilities exemption certificate for core coil composites to give us an opportunity to tour the building. So we will reopen this public hearing, and Sam and Kim, could you guys come up and help us through this one? Public hearing's now open.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I trust you all had an opportunity to read the agenda item summary that Mr. Mackey included in the packet. I just want to add two things. When we discuss, in this case, the industrial facility tax exemption certificate, there are two components of that. There is the rehabilitation of the facility itself, as well as the job creation requirement. Those are both required. In this case, as is indicated in the memo, Mr. Homebeck has not filed a notice of completion or final costs, nor at this time do we have any receipt or documentation showing what the actual expenditures are to date for the project. In addition, we don't have any documentation to support the creation of the 12 to 25 manufacturing jobs that are supposed to be attributable to the rehabilitation of the facility. And again, these are jobs, they must be jobs by Core Oil Composites to support their manufacturing operation for which this project happened. So at this point, it is our recommendation, once again, that Council adopt the resolution requesting that the State Tax Commission go ahead and revoke the industrial facilities certificate for Core Oil for 221 Industrial Drive.
Kim, do you have anything to add to that?
Sam summarized it perfectly.
Okay. Council?
So you don't have receipts for the expenditures that Mr. Homebeck has put forth in the...
We do not, and regardless of whether he provides receipts of what he spent up to date, under an IFT, the project is supposed to be completed within 2 years unless they request more time from the State Tax Commission. We don't have any record that he's requested more time or that it's been approved by the State Tax Commission.
Any questions, council members?
I called, I couldn't make that particular day, but when was the tour canceled?
So the tour was canceled because Mr. Homebeck wanted us to sign a non-disclosure agreement to go into the building. And it was against, not only was it against our city attorney's advice, I'm not gonna sign a non-disclosure agreement. I think they should be banned from public officials, honestly. I don't think it's hard. I just don't see how we can talk about something up here after. So that's why the tour was canceled. Yes, sir. Any discussion?
Just have a question. So he's required to request from the State Tax Commission a delay,
Correct.
and he does not do that.
Not to our knowledge. We have not seen any documentation that that's happened.
Okay. I see Mr. Homebeck is here. I'm sure he wants an opportunity to speak. Drew, do you have anything to say, or?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I was unaware that I had to submit anything to the state. Is there a form that I have to fill out, or?
No, it's in the certificate. It has that information in it.
As far as the request of additional time, I'll have to investigate that. I was unaware of that. First of all, good evening. Last week I approached the podium and said I didn't know where to begin. That's not the case this evening. I would like to say that I am very disappointed that the meeting last Tuesday was canceled by Mr. Mackey. I had approached him the day before the meeting and indicated that I would like to have a non-disclosure agreement because what I have in my facility is a very proprietary process. And he asked me to provide him with a copy of my boilerplate NDA, which I did, and he said it was, first response was that since Councilman Wolfram was there the week before, was an NDA necessary, and I explained to him that Mr. Wolfram's presence was, not there to, investigate the process or anything else. It was a 20-minute tour, and so that I believed it was not necessary. In this case, I wanted to explain, I wanted to have the equipment running, I wanted to be able to provide council and city staff with a very thorough overview of what it can do, what it's capable of, to give you that scope of what this business will entail, the city and the community, and also to circumvent any doubts of the types of people that we need. It's a very, very, very automated system, and the caliber of people are not these CNC operators and things that Councilman Sharp had indicated the week before or the month before. And getting back to the NDA, he suggested, or I asked Mr. Mackey to provide me something that would be palatable for the city. And at the end of the day, I received something that your city attorney prepared. I reviewed it overnight. I agreed to it. And I said the only thing I'd like to add is the fact that there was no time limit on it. So, and I was willing to negotiate. And that was 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning. 10 o'clock, I got the notification that they're gonna pull the plug. And that was followed up with an email that said that he reviewed with the mayor and Tom Thompson, and that they weren't gonna agree to something that, a non-disclosure agreement that I proposed. And it was their, their agreement. So I'm very disappointed. I think in order for the council and the city to make an informed decision, you really have to see it. You have to see the improvements. You have to allow me the opportunity to demonstrate, the scope of the rehabilitation that we've done at that facility, inside and out. So, without further ado, what I'd like to start off with is, what I have done since that cancellation, and even before that cancellation, is I took the time to go back as far back as October of 2022, when I first came in front of council for this reason. And I analyzed the case, I analyzed the comments, I analyzed the meeting minutes, I looked at the videos that were available, and after doing that, I pulled in a couple of people that have been following me through this whole process and had them do the same. And we came to a very common conclusion, and that was, and I want to be very candid with the council. I've been, I've attempted to cooperate, and I've attempted to do everything in my powers to be transparent and supportive of everything they've asked. But what it really is boiling down to, and it's evident in some of the videos, and it's evident in my later presentation, that what's happening is that the city management is selectively misinterpreting some of the dialogue and the content of the IFT agreement, as well as some of the statutes that are provided by the state of Michigan. And that's disturbing, because you hear about this misinformation and misdirection and false advertising, all this stuff, that's popular, but when it hits this close to home, it's concerning. So, with that being said, what I've brought out in a couple of things was, I wanted to go back to what we believed as we reviewed this was a very, and I don't want to use the word bias, but because that's kind of harsh, but it seems like that everything has been against me for all these different events, even though, as I explained it numerous times, these things are and have been beyond my control. So, it starts off with, you know, even the topic, you know, not so much tonight's discussion is gonna be, you know, to discuss or to determine or to recommend. It's not, it's revoke. You know, you're here to revoke it. That's not how this should be. It should be a city that is, you know, trying to develop and nurture businesses in the area, not pull it away and kick us to the curb. So, a couple of points that I want to bring up and prove the point as far as being misleading or misdirection or whatever was when Councilman Stuchel asked the question last month, I'm sorry, you know, what condition is the building? And I watched it on video and I played it back. And I was kind of surprised and that it made me smile because I knew where this was going. You know, Sam's response was, as far as I know, code enforcement has been denied access to the interior. A recent assessment review took place in April when photos and measurements were taken, and he could provide those photos to Greg. And he said, there's been no apparent, it doesn't be apparent that there's any significant difference from the prior period. Well, that whole delivery back to you was, in my interpretation, and I think looking at some of the expressions of people's faces was, well, you're being led to believe that I've done nothing. That I haven't, you know, I haven't done anything that I've said I've done. There's been no improvements whatsoever, and which is blatantly false. So that was one of the reasons I thought that the cancellation of the meeting at the facilities was wrong, and I still think you got to see it to believe it. But that, you know, and where I'm going with this is, you know, he said that, yet I know for a fact, and it was deliberate, it was very deliberate, because, now, pay attention to this one. He says, now, if you go to the City of Hillsdale's Property Assessor's website, all right, and you type in the address, 221 Industrial Drive, you're gonna find no less than 142 images and one sketch of the dimensions of the building, all right? Now, those images are taken in 2014, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2022, 2023, and 2024. And there's over 40 images taken of the interior in November of 2020. That was all after the interior restorations were done. So, you know, the comment like, well, code enforcement's been denied access to the interior. It rubs me the wrong way. And that November event, when they took the interior pictures, that's when Alan Baker was there to provide them with a certificate of occupancy. And that was limited only to the manufacturing area because I had not completed the total restoration efforts in the building. The offices, the lunchroom, things that were not pertinent to manufacturing have been shelved for financial reasons and primarily financial reasons. So, and the comment that, you know, there doesn't be any significant difference from the prior period. Well, let's see. The prior period was 2023. All the work was done in 2020. It was in the fourth quarter of 2019. The new roof was complete. The fascia panels were complete. The new doors, the exterior lighting, the windows, the landscaping, all that stuff. So you're not going to see any difference from 23 to 24. So it was. I believe it was intent to really to mislead the answer that he was looking for. So, with that being said, the other thing I want to bring up is the brutally evident comments that were made when the city starts to ignore the enforcing and binding and definitive government content of the IFA agreement. And last month, Councilman Palladino asked the question, is the IFA agreement the governing body defending the scope and terms of compliance of the agreement? And Sam dodged the question, and he said, well, the response was the staff's opinion that since manufacturing had not been commenced, therefore no employees hired and their position supports the non-compliance. But the answer should be yes. The language in the IFT agreement is the binding agreement. That's what they have to follow. So, to be clear, the language in paragraph, item 1, second sentence, the number of jobs created by the company shall include persons employed by the company, its affiliates, contractors, co-tenants, and other occupants of 221 Industrial Drive. Employed persons will include persons who are direct employees, independent contractors, leased employees, and/or employees for other staffing services. That's the language in the agreement. That's what the state has approved, and that's what I love about it. The city has a different view. And they're saying that the people that are running around my factory, who although they're not my employees, they're not bodies. And then last month also, Councilman Veer said, well, you know, let me see. You know, we have the jobs, but they're not the right jobs. Well, that's not true. Those are the right jobs. Those are qualified individuals that do that. So, getting back to their concern about me not having the people, they're not the people I would like to have. They're not the people that I would want to have. I want my own employees, but they're sufficient in complying with the IFE. And as far as I'm not going to kick that one anymore, but I think it's kind of twisted that we're not really reading it and following the language of the law. We should do that. And when you make your decisions this evening or whenever, think about that. And the last thing that I really want to bring up is, reading the background by David Mackey today was, it was a clip. It was from the Michigan construction, Michigan statute, section 207.565, section 2, where it does say the legislative body of a local government unit may, by resolution, request permission to revoke the industrial facilities exemption certificate. All right, and he goes on to say, and he stops at the word good cause. What he's not sharing with you is the next 17 lines of type in that statute, where in the last paragraph it says that the purposes of this act in the absence of circumstances that are beyond the control of the holder. If I put in all the effort and I can't get the jobs for events that are beyond my control, which this is the 4th time now I've explained that this whole situation has been beyond my control, between COVID, the storm that took off 66,000 square feet of my roof, and everything else. I mean, I'm just, I just can't reiterate enough that I'm doing the best I can and in good faith. So, with all that being said, I just want to say, and in closing, that, the rehabilitation is not complete. I will investigate, and I will have a discussion with Kim as far as where I find that thing to reach out to the city, the state. I mean, that is all news to me. I'm very disappointed that the council was denied the opportunity to visit the facility, see the line, see the improvements, because it denied me the opportunity to demonstrate what I have done and what we're going to do there. And I think it's what we're going to do there with your blessing is what's most important, because it's technology that doesn't exist anywhere in the country, and we're going to bring it to Hillsdale, and it's just a matter of getting this thing up and running. And I think you'll be pleased with the overall product at the end of the day. So, I'm ready to proceed. I'm in a situation where I'm at your mercy, and I humbly look for your consideration here as we go into this evening. But I have nothing more to say. Any questions for me?
Any questions for Mr. Holmbeck? Councilman Sharp?
we start? You signed it 2017, you had 2 years to get jobs in there, that didn't happen. Let's not use code for an excuse, we're now at 2024, 7 years. There's no 24 job, or 12 to 25 jobs, I believe you said you were gonna have there. I didn't wanna see, all I wanted to do was walk in the building, I didn't wanna see what you're making there, that's your business. I wanted to see the improvements that you said you made there, I wanted to see the front office. I wanted to see that building, because I know that building better than you do, because I worked in there 20 plus years. I know that building better than you think I do. And I wasn't asking to see your product you're making. If it's such a great product that you make, it's been waiting for 7 years, I would think somebody else would jump on board and made it by now.
Well, that's just it.
That's just it. But you can, sir, I'm not done.
Okay.
You've attacked the city manager, he's not here to defend himself. You've made some accusations, that is your right and that's your prerogative. But to sign a non-disclosure thing, that's ridiculous. To make us do that. You've allowed other people to be in that building, you've allowed storage to be in that building, you have stuff stored in there, because I know some people who've been in that building and have said they've never signed a non-disclosure. It's just like we're being treated like second-class citizens here on this. And that's my view and my opinion. And that's why I would say we should hand this over to the state and let them decide. Let them deal with you from now on. Because you haven't done what you said you were gonna do, and it's 7 years now. So that's where I stand. You don't have to, it's a business world, and it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And you're behind the trail. And that's what I've got to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Sharp. Councilman Palladino?
Why haven't you submitted the receipts?
To be very candid, I was unaware that I had to hand in receipts. I thought my annual report to the staff was sufficient, and I would be happy to hand in receipts. And I do have those. I have those for most of the big ticket items, as far as the roof and the heating and cooling, the fire suppression, doors, windows, things of that nature.
Is it true that it's required to request an extension with the state, or is the inaction of the council to refer the matter to the state sufficient to continue the agreement?
We have to vote to revoke it for it to go to the state. We had this on our plate, maybe it was a year ago, about a year ago. And at that time, council took no action, which, yeah, we actually have to vote to revoke it for it to make it to the state level.
Right. Yeah, to be more precise, I believe Kim was saying that even if we don't take any action to revoke, he still needs to proactively apply with the state to say, the conditions are not fully met, may I have another year, 2 years, whatever it would be.
Oh, I don't know the answer to that. Is that?
Yeah, I never heard that. Yeah.
Yes, the state tax commission can revoke the certificate on their own. That is the state tax commission's purview. They can do it for reasons they determine, but they also can do it if they are requested to do it by the local municipality.
So I was wrong about that. Councilman Beard?
Tom, on that NDA, which creates a bunch of problems, and I just could you clarify that?
Yeah, what Mr. Homovic said is, and I want to be polite and say it was disingenuous when he said that after I submitted a revised version of the non-disclosure agreement that I thought we could live with, right, and have council people sign if they wanted to. When he said that all he wanted was some additional time, I have the email that he sent to Mr. Mackey where he requested other things, including, and I'm not going to read it verbatim unless anybody wants me to.
Please do.
Please.
Okay, here we go. And this is Tuesday, July 9th at 8:53 a.m. David arrived a little later than anticipated due to the need to make a couple stops on the way into town. And I will interrupt here just to point out, this was quite a while after the meeting where this
this had been adjourned to set up this, this tour of the facility. And the first I heard of the NDA was the day before the tour was supposed to take place, when I get it, and I'm supposed to take a look at it. So I put together some revisions. But to continue, the review and overall opinion of the NDA suggested was not viewed favorably. However, in good faith and with limited time before today's meeting, these changes to the NDA will satisfy the intent of preventing disclosure of the company's intellectual properties and proprietary technologies. 1, item 4 is to include, quote, the obligations of the parties hereunder shall terminate no less than 7 years from the date of signing, end quote. 2, item 5 is to state, quote, this agreement may be enforced by equitable relief, and in any litigation to enforce a provision of this agreement, the prevailing party shall be entitled to recover actual attorney's fees, end quote. And I'll interrupt my reading just to say I had already torpedoed that in my revision, because the American rule is when you're in litigation, everybody pays their own attorney's fees. And on top of that, it's difficult to put the city in a situation where it's, or any of you individually, where you're potentially subject to suit, which I'll get to in a second here. To continue on with Mr. Homovec's email, 3, item 1, include, quote, at no time during a public meeting or presence of video recorded media for public viewing disclose the company's confidential information during the duration of this agreement, end quote. And he continues, to be clear, any and all discussion relative to the process, technology, products, formulations, applications, and economic details are protected as confidential information. Under no circumstances any of the confidential information to be discussed during live video feed or recorded for public distribution. If so, this will be justification for recourse, as it will enable substantial compromise to the company's competitive position. Send me the updated NDA for final review this morning. I will have them printed and available for signature upon arrival. You're a public body. You're going to have a discussion in public. The way that confidential information was defined in that agreement was so broad that almost anything you discussed about what you might have seen inside that building, including the ceiling tile that was used in it, could theoretically be argued to be confidential information. So, you know, as a lawyer, I'm looking out for you folks in the city. I would advise anybody to sign it under those circumstances, given the reason for which you were going to the facility, right? You're not some vendor coming in there where you might want to have an NDA, or somebody you're giving a tour for some business purpose, like potential customer or something like that, which I understand. You draft NDAs all the time. But for this purpose, it was too broad and not something that you could do. But it also had a lot more stuff in it than what Mr. Homovec suggested. His response to the revised version was. But that has to do with why, from my perspective, I simply recommended that people not sign the NDA. What happened with that after that? It didn't have anything to do with me. So I just want to make that clear. And that is the problem, again, was how broadly confidential information was described in this agreement, and the problem that that creates for you to deliberate publicly, which you need to do. You can't do it behind closed doors, about what you want to do with Mr. Homovec's IFP certificate or portfolio, which is actually portfolio. And it's not fair to him either if you don't have a clear record that if you wanted to appeal to the tax tribunal, assuming that you decided you were going to request it to be revoked, he has a right to have a hearing in front of them. You know, he needs to have a proper record of that. So I didn't see how you're going to be able to do that and have that sort of cloud of, you know, what can we talk about or not talk about hanging over your head.
Of course. Mr. Homovec, why, I mean, if you thought a non-disclosure agreement was necessary, why didn't you tell us at the last meeting when we all made plans to do this? Because my life is very busy, sir, and I scheduled a week around this, essentially. I mean,
The scope, to answer that question, the scope of the meeting, I thought was intended to see as much as you wanted to see, to be completely transparent. Later on in the volley of emails, between myself and Mr. Mackey. He said, hey, we don't want to know your formulations, your process time, and all this other stuff. We just want to see it. Had that been the case, that would have been fine, but he had already canceled the meeting. You know, the whole thing, and I thought it was important that, and especially to address some of the concerns that Bruce Sharp has had as far as the caliber of people that I'm gonna need. This is a system that, you know, consumes 3,500 pounds of plastic pellets an hour. You feed it, and then you run 150 feet down line, and you watch it stacking them up on a pallet. It's relatively automated. All you have to do is keep a very close look at the gauges and make sure that everything's in compliance. And when they're not in compliance, the lights and bells go off, so you know what to look for. Had Mr. Mackey said, even on Monday, but we're not concerned about that. We just want to walk in. I would have wiped it off the table, and that's the truth. And again, even at the end of the day on Tuesday, I said, hey, council, you guys are welcome to come in. You know, if that's the case, if that's all you wanted. So I think to make an informed decision, even this evening, I think they do need to see it. But again, I extend that personal invitation to come look.
Thank you, Mr. Hollenbeck. Any more questions for Mr. Hollenbeck? Okay, we'll open up the podium for Sam. You have something to add, do you?
Yeah, I think we'd like to address some of the things that Mr. Hollenbeck stated, if we could, before we open it up to public discussion.
What's that?
Sam wants to stand here?
Yeah, we would like to address some of the things that he stated there, just to kind of set the record straight, a few items. I want to back up for a second. You know, the certificate that was issued in 2017 had a project completion date of December 15 of 2020. This IFT didn't come before council until the fall of 2022. So there were 2 years after which the project should have been completed that this was not brought to council. However, it became apparent to city staff that the project at that point was not completed and the jobs were not created. And so he was actually sent a letter from the city attorney in 2022. That letter said city staff finds him in non-compliance and asked him to submit information to, you know, address what we felt was basically his deficiency in following the IFE agreement. And then, you know, in 2022, this came before council. He had an opportunity to present. Council decided to not take action at the time, give him another year. Last October, I came up here because it was decided in 2022 that we should address it again in 2023. So I had an opportunity to come up here. We shared, you know, a lot of the same information and our reasons for finding that he's not in compliance, and council at that time determined to give him some additional time as well. That leads us to our June meeting. So this has been a very lengthy progress with many opportunities for Mr. Hollenbeck to provide receipts and documentation showing the improvements that he's claimed he's made to the building. I also want to, you know, state we are not saying that Mr. Hollenbeck has never made any improvement whatsoever. That is not a claim that we have ever made, but we simply need to know if he has made the improvements that he's required to make under the IFE certificate that he was granted. Every year there's an annual compliance report that he's required to submit to Kim Thomas, our city assessor. The most recent report we have from 2023 is included in the packet. It's at the end of this section. In the report, instead of providing any receipts or actual costs, expenditures to date, what you will find is it's basically a budget. He provides an aspirational document. These are the things I would like to do. He has in there $700,000 for a pending roof replacement. It's an estimate of what he's going to invest in the property. You'll find in there there's money for restoration of offices, restrooms, lunchrooms. Those are things that we would have been interested in seeing at the tour. However, you'll notice in the very first email he sent to the city, he said we could only enter through the back of the facility. The front would not be accessible to us. So there are reasons, for wanting to see the facility to determine if these improvements were made. And then, again, the IFE does apply to the entire facility, not just the warehouse space that he referenced, but it's for the entire facility. The renovation rehabilitation project he proposed is for the entire facility. And then, again, I just want to emphasize too, when it comes to the non-disclosure agreement, he does state very clearly in the email that if it is not signed, entry will not be permitted. So I think it's important to note that. And once again, I am glad he brought up the jobs that he claims have been created in that report from this January. We reached out to some of the companies in the report that he said have created jobs in connection with this project. One of the companies, AAS Automation Systems, dissolved. They filed their articles of dissolution with the state earlier this year. Precision Gauge and Metal Tech said that they temporarily leased space at that facility for material storage in 2021 and 2022. They do not presently lease space, and they said they did not create or retain any jobs. Dayco Products, we have not received a response to multiple requests for that info. Mains Importing said they have leased warehouse storage space at the facility since August of 2022, and they said 2 jobs for Mains Importing were retained. Now, in that report that he filed with the city assessor's office, he claims in there, this is a direct quote, that those companies have maintained daily activity on the site. That appears, based on our research, to not be an accurate statement, and that leads us to believe, once again, that the job creation requirement is not met, even under a very generous interpretation. Not to mention, there are no actual Corcoil LLC jobs, nor have we been provided with payroll receipts, or even any indication that he's tried to hire somebody or posted these jobs. And then as well, just once again, it is a requirement, it is a statutory requirement that when he's finished with the project, he files a notice of completion and submits final costs to the city assessor. And once again, if he had needed additional time, at any point up until now, he had the opportunity to request the state tax commission grant him extra time. That information is on the same certificate that was issued to him. So I just want to clear up a few of those points for you. And
Thank you, Sam. Any questions for Sam?
Did you request receipts from Mr. Hummelbeck?
so he's required, if the project is not complete, the statute says, once that deadline is passed, he has to provide us with cause and detailed information about why he hasn't created those jobs. So receipts, information to show what he's done so far, projected timelines for when he plans to be finished with the project, when he plans to hire the 12 to 25 employees. That's all information that is supposed to be provided to us in that report.
So the report that we got from January 26, 2024,
Right.
which had all this information here, are you saying that these may not have been actual expenditures?
Well, I'm not saying that. Mr. Homovac says that. If you look at the bottom section, he claims to have spent, so far invested in the facility, over, just over $1.1 million.
Right.
If you look at the very bottom of the line, he lists $700,000 as a pending roof replacement. He said that the offices have not been completed. That's listed in there at $77,000. So there's uncertainty. In fact, this appears not to show actual expenditures, and so that's where receipts or other information that he was able to submit to the city at any point in the past 4 years would have been very welcome to help us determine that. But without having those receipts and without having an opportunity to see the facility and verify that the investments were made, or having the notice of completion for the project, there's no reason for us to believe that it's completed.
But you did not request receipts.
The last email between Dave and Mr. Holmbeck, Dave requested receipts.
And when was that?
That was on the 9th, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you, Sam. We will now open up the podium for public comment. Remember, this is a public hearing regarding the revocation of IFE Certificate 2017-181, and that is all you can speak on at this moment. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please limit your trips to one to the podium. The podium is now open. Seeing no public comment, we'll close the podium. Council.
I just have a couple of comments, and I've talked about this a little bit before. But again, the statutory language says that it may be revoked in the absence of circumstances that are beyond the control of the holder. And of course, we have a whole list of things that were beyond the control of the holder, including the roof going off, and the people that were supposed to fix the roof didn't, and then he sued them, and then they went through all this, and there was a loan, and then they put a lien on the building, and so we couldn't get a loan to get cash in order to do this. And I think that, in fact, I did have a letter from Martin Taylor, who's the building official for Hillsdale County, where it was to David Mackey, and it said he was going to advise him of the status of the roofing project, and he talks about the roof covering installed was improperly done by the contractor, still had numerous code violations. There's no corrective action had been done. The matter is currently pending legal action taken by Mr. Holmbeck to have corrections made and the roof replaced. The latest knowledge we have is the matter is in arbitration awaiting final court disposition, and then he ended up winning that. And then, but it says Mr. Holmbeck has cooperated with his office on this matter and is trying to resolve through the courts to have the corrections made so the building will become usable. So I just think that there's been, it's not like he hasn't been doing anything. Now, I don't know about the $700,000 in terms of the amount of money that's been spent on this, but clearly there has been there's been circumstances beyond his control, which is what the statute says. And then I think I asked last time about how many, because we're talking about 20 manufacturing jobs here. Let's presume that he has actually spent the money that he was supposed to spend. I asked how many manufacturing jobs are there in Hillsdale, and so, but that was not available from Sam. So I did look at, I found a 2016 study that found that there were 4,736 manufacturing jobs in Hillsdale. And then I looked up, and Indeed right now shows that there are more than 100 jobs within 25 miles of Hillsdale that are in manufacturing. So I'm just thinking that the question about the 10 manufacturing jobs, clearly he is not being able to manufacture because of all these other issues. But if we're going to say, oh, well, that's the big thing that we're worried about, I think circumstances beyond his control has made it so that he can't buy the product that's necessary to actually start the manufacturing. And 20 manufacturing jobs sounds like a lot, but in terms of the total amount of manufacturing jobs within 25 miles of the city that he would be adding is a minuscule amount. So with that.
Thank you, Councilman Wolfram. Councilman Beer.
Well, my biggest concern, I'll be quite honest with you, is because we decided on doing this meeting back in June, end of June. And he was aware that we wanted to do the walkthrough just to view the facilities to see what kind of work has been taking place. which he waits until the day before, which it was in his control, to present the city manager with an NDA, which was in his control. Now, a reasonable person, I'm not in manufacturing, I'm really not amazed by it, but to imply that this council would go in there and divulge all his secret manufacturing practices, which have yet to start, I find that kind of demeaning. Because I had an open mind, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, let's go see the facility. And then all of a sudden, there's just one more thing. And that had nothing to do with things out of his control. Those were completely in his control. I had it down on my calendar. I was all excited about going to see it. And then all of a sudden I have to worry about what, signing an NDA, and so then anything you see and you can't really present at a public forum like that because you might be abusing it. So it was kind of like you can go see it, but then you can't really comment on it. It's like, so to me that was telling. And to me, that made me view this whole thing, because let's face it, we're in the 6+ year of this, not until November or whenever, but of this, that we've given them additional time. And I was on, let's give them another year. Let's give them another 6 months. And, but I don't know, from my own perspective, I think that we have been played. And if it isn't such a great thing, and then because at the last meeting, Drew was talking about, well, I just need another 35,000 to get this manufacturing going. And I know in my world, if I had a great idea and I'm passionate about it, I'm gonna go through whatever lengths to make it happen. I'm not gonna sit there and say, well, because so-and-so wouldn't give me some money, I would, shoot, if I had a house, I'd get a second mortgage on it, I would, because if it's such a great idea, which I'm sure it is, but I would be willing to go to such great lengths to see it to the end. And I think this council's been more than sympathetic. I mean, because quite frankly, we've given them 6 years when it was supposed to be done in 2. Now granted, you have all these other circumstances, he had no control, but the tipping point for me was the NDA. The fact that we can go look at his facilities, but we can't say what we see in his facilities.
Thank you, Councilman Baird. Councilman Stuchel.
I am in manufacturing, been in a long time, and I've done a lot of plant renovations in my career. One of the first things you do is you take before and after pictures. You show what you're starting with, what you're ending up with. I haven't seen any of that. So I have to agree with Mr. Baird. We've been doing plaintiff's rodeo for quite a while.
Do you have something to add, Councilman Sharp?
I make a motion that we revoke the industrial facilities exemption certificate 2017-181.
Got a motion on the floor. Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilwoman Beer. Or Councilwoman Pratt. Sorry, sir. This is to revoke the IFE certificate for core coil composites. All. A yes vote will be to revoke. A no vote will be to not revoke. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
I was just gonna say it should be by roll call vote anyway.
Well, there's a no vote, so there's gonna be a roll call. May I have a roll call, City Clerk?
Yes. Councilperson Pratt,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Veer,
Yes.
Wolfram, Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Morrissey, and Palladino.
Yes.
That's 7-1. It's revoked resolution 3608.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, we've got no old business, so we'll move into new business item A, 2024-27, Police Officers of America Union Contract. Chief?
Good evening. I know Mr. Mackey put in the packet, he did a summary of the items to note in the contract. I can go over those, but in the contract, I know any language that's coming out is crossed through, and then the replacement language is written right beside the crossed out language in red. I can just answer any questions that you have about this, or I can go over the highlighted issues, the major points.
Any questions for the chief? Yeah, I don't think you need to go through the high points, chief, if there's no questions. I'm sure council looked it over well.
And some of the things that have been changed that are not highlighted, they're operational things that move from union responsibility to employer responsibility. Omitted language from the past. We did find one section that was just gone out of the contract that had been in the contract for years and years and years. And because we couldn't find it earlier this year, the end of last year, it actually created a situation so that language got put back in the contract. Mutually, both sides agreed to it, wanted it back in.
Yep, good work. Do I have a motion to approve the police officers?
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Beer. Can I have a roll call vote, city clerk?
Councilperson Sharp,
Yes.
Stucho,
Yes.
Beer,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Morrissey,
Yes.
Palladino,
Yes.
and Pratt.
Yes.
8-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into new business item B, which is the International Association of Firefighters Local 961 contract. Chief?
Exactly the same. In his summary, he's got the highlight points, and the contract is written the same way that was put in the packet. Omitted language is crossed out with replacement language right beside it, written in red.
Motion to approve.
I do have a question.
Councilman Wolfram.
Why doesn't each member get an annual food allowance?
They work a 24-hour shift. They've always had a food allowance. It had not been adjusted in a very, very long time. And it actually, even with what is in this contract, would probably be below what any normal per diem, per day rate would be. But working a 24-hour shift, either they have to buy food to take in there and hope they get a chance to eat it or cook it or go out to eat.
What's the current range of hours that off-duty full-time employees can respond to medical emergencies?
Okay, it was in the contract in a couple different places before. It was that they could respond to any medical call Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then they had a letter of understanding that's been in the contract, attached to the contract way prior to me being involved with the fire department, that basically opened that up to 24/7, 365 to respond for medical calls, but also put in there that it could be retracted upon notice by the employer. So that portion of letter of understanding got retracted, and we revised the language that off-duty full-time firefighters could respond to priority medical calls instead of just medical calls. We made a priority medical calls Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then we have Appendix C, which lists out what priority medical calls are. And this was an attempt, as you know, from the Public Safety Committee and other committees we've discussed about unreimbursed expenses that we have and things that we do to care for our community. And this is just one thing we had to take a hard look at, is this an expense we really need to do? Because as a full-time firefighter responding to those calls, it is at a full overtime rate per hour for one call. So again, both sides, we discussed this, we became a mutual agreement on that. So it's been reduced from 24/7 down to just Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. for priority medical calls only.
Can the part-time employees respond?
Yes, that,
24/7, 365?
yes, and the reason why it always had those hour limitations is because the part pay are supposed to pick up and respond to medical calls also with the full-time that's on duty after hours and on weekends. And they have more availability then. That's how it was initially designed. And I can't answer the question, and nobody there can, of why that letter of understanding existed. That just opened it up fully.
Are the full-time employees needed, or do they want this work?
Yes, because sometimes they're the only ones there. You know, they do the immediate response to the medical call, and if part pay are available, they can respond to the call also. They may get called off, the ambulance may show up at the same time, ambulance might be 20 minutes out.
Apologies, going back to the police contract, will the additional week of PTO require any additional overtime?
No.
Any more questions for the chief? Councilman Beard.
No, I didn't notice on the police, but it's probably the same, I know, on the increasing employee contribution from 5 to 6% to the MERS. It was on the police too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Any more questions for the chief? Got a motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp. Got a second from Councilwoman Pratt. Can I have a roll call vote, please, City Clerk?
Councilperson Stuchel.
Yes.
Beer.
Yes.
Wolfram.
Yes.
Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
Councilperson Morrissey.
Yes.
Palladino.
Yes.
Pratt. Yes. And Sharp.
Yes.
8-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Chief. Oh, we've got one more for you, Chief. It's a MERS defined contribution benefit. Or Laura, did you want to take this?
I can take it.
Okay.
So this would be what you guys have all mentioned, that we will be raising all the employee contributions from 5 to 6%. It's also in the works with the IBEW to raise theirs 1% as well. So it would help with the unfunded liability.
Councilman Beard.
Will that also, will that increase the city's contribution towards that on the MERS, or is that just strictly the employee?
Just the employee
So
contribution.
the contribution from the city remains the same?
It would stay the same, yes.
Councilman Palladino, do you have something?
We received that actuarial projection, and I was just curious if that included this additional percent.
No, because that was actually from last year, and so when they put that out, we hadn't decided on that yet,
Oh,
so.
and Dave's gonna prepare us an updated one with that factored in, it sounds like.
Any more questions for Laura? Do I have a motion to approve the defined benefit employee contribution amendment increase for MERS?
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Morrissey. May I please have a roll call, City Clerk?
Yes, Councilperson Beer.
Yes.
Wolfram.
Yes.
Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
Councilperson Morrissey.
Yes.
Palladino.
Yes.
Pratt.
Yes.
Sharp.
Yes.
And Stuchel.
Yes.
8-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into new business item D, fee schedule resolution effective July 1st, 2024. Michelle. During the fiscal year 2025 budget process, staff identified updates to the fee schedule that needed to be increased based on review of cost as well as a review of the demand and market pricing. The increase in fees relate to dock rentals, Owens Park, and Mrs. Stocks Park, pavilion rentals, and Sandy Beach admissions, and adding a fee for property information reports. I just didn't know if you wanted to come up in case council had any questions.
If anyone has any questions.
Council members?
Your budget's doing pretty well. What's the thought process for increasing the Sandy Beach to $10 a day? Is there a specific fund that's in a deficit?
No, but it helps to offset, because we have employees there at the beach, so it's helping to offset the wage line, the concession stand, all the things that are going into the beach. But it hasn't been, it's nothing that's been looked into for years. When I was growing up, it was $3, and I think it's been $5 since forever. So it just helps to offset being able to have them staffed and the different amenities that we do have at the park.
I guess my concern is that at the $5 rate, when I'm out there, the amount of people I see parking at Owen Memorial already and walking down. So I don't know if that's gonna be a bigger issue, people just, park by the docks and.
But if you look
Okay.
at it as permitted parking, and those are actually up there is actually supposed to be for the dock space renters who rent along there. But, trying to keep a curb on that and keep it policed or anything like that has always been a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, I would hate to be policing people from
And you can
going
go to
the
South
beach.
Haven and they're charging $5 a car, but they have no concessions, they don't have the different amenities that we do have at the beach. And we don't have the volume of people.
Do the amenities pay for themselves, the concession stand?
Basically it does, yes. Once you cross over, you have admissions revenue as well as your concessions revenue. And so at the end of the day, we usually come out ahead with that. But it would also be able to, having the increase would help us to offset the maintenance at the park. This year, they've now charged the septic pumping to the park itself. And so we're trying to help these parks become more and more self-sufficient, self-funding, rather than dipping on the general fund. So as much as you can alleviate the general fund draw, that's our end goal.
Right. I agree with that, and I've been in favor of many things to stop pulling from the general fund, but
Correct.
the park seems like one of those things that you wanna keep as open as possible. You wanna
And in the
encourage healthy
meantime,
activity.
What we've been attempting to do is trying to improve all of the different parks, the equipment and things like that, which becomes a draw off of our parks maintenance fund, because DPS comes in and they help with the concrete pours, they help with there are things as different organizations come in and help us to improve the parks, they still look for the city, what's the city's end of this? And so DPS is starting to be drained a little bit with that as we move toward these improvements, which are really badly needed. We're very outdated in our parks, trying to bring them up to ADA specifications and all of those types of things. So it's kind of finding a balance there.
I really appreciate that thought pattern in general, but when you think about Dial-A-Ride drawing 130,000+ potentially from the general fund this year, the airport 120,000. Do you have a number of how much revenue it takes in and how much it's projected with the increase?
Usually I'm about 75 to maybe 80% self-sustaining as a department, which is nice. And so usually our draw is maybe 55,000 approximately off of the general fund each year. But if you can lessen that, it eases the rest of it for the rest of everybody
Agreed,
else.
100%. Again, it's just your budget is so small and so well managed in comparison to some of the other budgets that are really drawing from the general fund.
About $300 for T-ball.
Right, no, it's fantastic, and I just think, this is a public amenity. It's sort of, to me, besides police and fire, parks is one of the things that we should try to make as freely accessible. And I know you can just go to Memorial Beach or Owen Memorial and jump in there for free, but it's such a nice area. Yeah, I don't know, maybe we can talk about this more at committee and see if there's other areas we can try to make some more money for you. I just like our parks to be as open and accessible as possible.
Sure.
But not criticizing you, I really appreciate your thought process around this.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank
you do a great job, Michelle.
you. Thank you.
I'm kind of in agreement with Josh on this, just because it's young families.
There are a
it's
lot
such
of
a-
different minds that all came
Oh,
together.
of course, no, I'm not-
Everybody's
yeah.
looking at this and our finance department and everyone's just kind of like.
No, I know
looking
that.
at everything.
I know that. I don't think that Michelle or was sitting around being like, we're gonna. I know that's not the case. Councilman Sharp.
I go to South Haven, St. Joe, those places, it's $10 to use their beach, to park there daily, on a daily basis.
Because one of my employees was just talking to me tonight and she pays $5 in South Haven.
She's got lucky somewhere, because that's what it is, it's $10, it's a beautiful beach, Wish we could bring more sand in more often to the Baldy's beach.
And do you remember the expense of that?
I remember you brought it in one time.
Transport, when Rotary brought that in, transport, I think, ran almost $25,000.
Right, there's a cost to it, but there is a
The sand
cost.
was free, but.
But yeah, I'm just saying that your $10 is not out of range compared to those other beaches I've been at. And plus it's a 2-hour plus drive to go to those beaches. So I think you're doing a great job out there for what you've got, what you're working with, your small staff and everything you gotta keep an eye on, and plus fight the geese off. That's another issue. But you're doing a great job.
Use the money for snipers. Could I get a, if you have a projection, or just what Sandy Beach sales take in, and then what, you're projecting with this new, day pass and season pass system?
Finance hasn't passed that on.
Okay.
We usually do approximately maybe 18,000 in admission sales.
Okay.
And then, so like, we usually.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
So
So
potentially
if-
$30,000 plus dollars.
per year, I wouldn't say 30,000 would be, by the time you get through concessions and everything,
Okay.
you know. But we usually walk away after my supplies have been purchased and wages have been paid, and that's Department of Public Services Parks Maintenance set aside, just to cover the cost of the programming of it. We usually walk away with a little bit of lucrative that goes back into the general fund, usually around maybe $600-$500. That's over and above after the cost.
Okay, and this will
of
take,
the program.
this will take effect for the 2025 season?
Yes, we wouldn't be able to put that into effect until the following year.
Okay.
We wouldn't change that out right now.
Any more questions? Councilman Beard.
Michelle, I see that, daily pass was $5 and $50, but then the new rate is, would encourage people, I'm thinking, to buy the season pass because it only went up 50%, it's at went from 50 to 75. So it might encourage more people to buy the season pass. Just another question, I noticed on the docks, we have a resident and non-resident fee. Have you ever considered that as far as on admission for people that aren't in the city?
Out of state, and that's actually something that has come up in the past. So
Yeah.
you have resident, and then you have non-resident,
Right.
and then it's been brought up several times in the past about out of state, because we do have several Ohio, Indiana that come in, but CDC in the past has always just kind of collaborated just the resident, non-resident.
Okay. I know, but on the daily admission, you don't differentiate at all.
No, we don't. And we don't differentiate for the park rentals either, as far as pavilions and
Oh.
things like that.
Just on the docks. Just on the docks.
Correct.
Any more questions? Councilman Morrissey?
How long has the fee been $5?
It's been $5 since I came into recreation 18 years ago.
So, in other
So,
words,
I
you're
mean, it's
adjusting
really
it-
never
You're
been-
adjusting it for inflation.
It's never really been looked at, no. And then we did go through a period of time there where nothing was being charged. And then when Rotary came in to help with all of the renovation and that, so if we actually have to, Department of Public Services has to redo the mulch every year, we have to add to that, and because we have the new play facility, we have the basketball court, there are other things that we're trying to maintain now, and now being fully staffed, that just adds to it. So by increasing that, as I said, we can offset part of that, the parks maintenance fund that's going into our parks.
Any more questions? Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a resolution. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Beer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we will move into item letter E, MDOT contract 2024-5188. Public Services Director Blake.
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor, how are you doing? This item came up from various incidents at the low clearance of the Hall Street Bridge. Most recently, we all remember the monster truck that hit the bridge heading into the city. A few months ago, city staff and MDOT got together talking about adding some extra emphasis to allow motorists to have something different than they're used to do that. So in the conversation with MDOT, we have determined it's in the best interest of the public to upgrade the signs there on both east and west side of the railroad bridge to the LED lights that we kind of like what we put up on the Fayette West Street intersection there. These ones will be quite a bit larger than those. They're going to be 48 inches wide. So what they're proposing here, they did get a contract prepared and submitted for the city to review. In the contract, the state will provide and purchase 100% of these signs. It's not in here, but it is at a cost of $4,000. With them doing that, the agreement is the city will perform the install and all future maintenance of the signs. And just to note that currently the city is already doing maintenance on the signs that's out there right now.
That's a good thing to know.
Absolutely.
So nothing we can't handle, correct?
Absolutely.
I like it, it's a great idea.
So the posts are already up, they're the exact same. Pretty much taking old signs down and putting new signs up and putting LED houses up.
Awesome.
Any bets somebody still hits it?
They say we haven't done all we can do.
So we do have a meeting there tomorrow also, I don't know if anyone is aware of that, to see what their future plans are gonna be. So we can bring that at the next council meeting and share as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome. So with that, any questions?
Yeah, just one.
Councilman Suchel.
How do you make truck drivers read the sign?
Trailers.
So, I've watched some crazy things down there, and I don't have an answer for this, sir. All I can do is put a whole bunch of lights down there, and they can read shapes. Because these are shapes and just numbers. There's nothing more to read until they get to the bridge. But these signs will be all out at Bear Lake Road and all the way to Reading Ave.
Is there any thought about hanging something prior to the bridge? I mean, within 100 yards or so that you would hit? If you hit this, you're hitting the bridge?
So they have talked about that. One thing, and it is doable, put a crash cushion up that far. But what they want to do is they want to keep it before they even get down that far. Because they have semis backing up, a mile and a half to get to one way or other way, and then backing on traffic. So the goal is to get vehicles not even down that far. So that's one. Two, hopefully, keep my fingers crossed, with the next 2 years, that's going to be a new bridge. So with crash cushion that you're referring to, there's quite more cost into it. But it has been looked at, yes.
But you're not gonna go that way.
As of right now, no.
Till you hit the bridge again.
Correct.
Any more questions for Jason? Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move into new business. Item letter F, proposal to purchase city property, 49 Union Street. Kim.
So, excuse me, Marty Hubbard, who is the owner of 42 Union, approached the city and made an offer to purchase the property at 49 Union Street. This property was granted to the city when Alson's moved out as part of an IFT clawback agreement settlement. We got this piece of property that we didn't really have any use for and have no plans for. So, with Marty's proposal, she is looking at possibly developing this property in the future for either multifamily or a mixed-use property, which would be a great use in that location. It would match what she's done across the street. We are in full favor of her taking this on, so.
Awesome, I think it's great. Let's sell it. Councilman Beard?
And we get it back on the tax rolls?
Yes, this would put it back on the tax rolls. And Marty is here if you have any questions for her.
Any questions for?
Thank God somebody's doing something with it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea.
No, it's great, yeah.
And I'll move to run the resolution.
And I'll second it.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Beer, seconded by Councilwoman Min Sharp, to sell the city property 49 Union Street to Marty Hubbard. May I have a roll call, city clerk?
Councilperson Wolfram?
Yes.
Mayor Stockford?
Yes.
Councilperson Morrissey?
Yes.
Palladino?
Yes.
Pratt?
Yes.
Sharp?
Yes.
Stutzel?
Yes.
Beer?
Yes.
8-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie.
Congratulations.
I'm excited, thank you so much.
It's very exciting. Okay. New business item letter G, noise variance request, iron invasion demolition derby. Chief.
Yes, I received an email from Jared Blades, Loudmouth Promotions. They do demolition derbies. It's not just like the fair one. This is actually a 2-day event where you gotta work through the different races and they work on their cars overnight so that they can use them the next day in the races, hopefully to go through the finals for the money. But in his request, he requested a noise variance or extension on our existing one, but without getting any timeframes or anything. I gave him a call and asked him if he knew approximately how late they would run at night. And he said he absolutely couldn't say because this is a competition. A race lasts as long as it's gonna last, and then you gotta clear the track and get the next race going. So he absolutely could not tell me when he even thought they might end at night. I called him the next day, spoke to him again, because in his email he put they would be working on their cars overnight to get them in shape going for the next day. Asked him where he thought in the fairgrounds that might happen, because I didn't know if it'd be in the south end, in the infield, on the backside of the old track. He mentioned the campgrounds, because the people would be staying there overnight, unlike at the fair, because it being a 2-day competition. I then contacted the fair manager, Lori Hall, spoke with her about this. She started with, they were very excited to have this event there at the fairgrounds. I asked her about where everybody was going to be spending the night or working on their vehicles, and she assured me that she would have them make sure all the vehicles stayed in the infield for any potential running them at night or working on them at night. That's really all the information I have. It's the last day of May, first day of June next year. The reason why he's putting this request now, they need to pin down their locations for all the events that they promote, so the people that are going to participate can get them on their calendar. I asked them again why it was so early. That is all the information I have on this.
Awesome, sounds okay. You know, it's ironic that Councilman Soha isn't here because he might be the only person on council that might have an issue with it, so.
I'm on Charles.
Oh, well, Councilman Beer.
And the fairgrounds are all excited about it?
Yeah, she said they were very excited about this event. And I think she said during the fair, I did ask her that demolition derby is usually done between 10 and 11 o'clock at night. And then they pull out of there if they're coming back for the second day. They leave at night and come back the next day.
I mean, they're not gonna be crashing cars into each other at 2 o'clock in the morning, so.
It would be, well, they don't have mufflers on the cars, so
Yeah.
it would be the loud vehicles and whether they're pounding down with sledgehammers. Those are the unknowns.
Will they have the fire department down there to help out?
They have not requested it, and something will go over next spring with them. But this is a private for-profit event for them, so it wouldn't be anything like during fair where we're working with the fair board or whatever to provide the service for the community. So I think this would be something that we would have to talk about, that they pay for that service.
Okay. Well, I'm all right with it. What do you guys say? Councilman Palladino? You got little ones.
I can deal with a week of the fair. I can do 2 more nights.
Welcome to Hillsdale.
All right, well, do I have a motion to? Oh. Okay. Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt, to approve the noise variance for iron invasion demolition derby. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, our last new business item, H, Homeless Task Force Recommendation Follow-Up. Councilman Stuchel asked for this to be added to the agenda. You can see his email that's attached, but I agree with Councilman Stuchel. We put together this task force. We gave them 15 months to do as much research as they can, and they came up with 2 recommendations. One was, more jail space, increased law enforcement, the aspect of these drug houses. The other was the full-time shelter. I think we have to support their recommendations. They did a lot of work on it. What I was thinking was, following into this next year, with how we always do our council goals, I think we should really, streets is always our number 1 goal. Public safety is always our number 2 goal. We usually have 4 or 5 goals. I think we should really just 2 goals: streets, public safety. That way this city knows that those are the things that we need to focus on. So I think the big thing, Chief, is that, and I'm speaking for all the council, and if I'm speaking out of line with somebody, then that's fine, just speak up. But I think council wants you to know, wants the police department to know, that if there's something that the police department needs in particular that's different, to be able to really go after these drug houses that are in the city limits and the sex traffickers, then we will do what we can, right, guys, to provide that for you. So.
Much appreciated. Much of this report I completely agree with, and I'm trying not to read tone into, it's like a text, you know how that is.
Yes.
When it comes, and I was at several of those homeless task force meetings early on, and listened to some of the things people said about drug houses, drug dens, and some of them put them, and it was kind of generic. I just listened to what everybody had to say. I can tell you we have officers that have been sent to drug schools, and more than one of them, and are into drug enforcement. And anytime we have a known place that is a problem, there is special attention given. I will not give you the tactics of what we do and how we do it. But I did draw some data that I did want to share with you. Since the inception of the task force, going back to January 1 of 23 through July 10th of this year, our department has worked 35 narcotics cases and made 31 arrests on those. And looking through all of those, there is no commonality in addresses. So that is one tool we would use to identify a problem, either area or exact location, and it just doesn't show up there. But when we do get information, whether it's off a stop or we get drugs, a tip for some reason or whatever, our guys share that information, and I do tell you they are monitored and they do look at that. And just for comparison purposes, I did the year and a half before this year, that year and a half, and we had worked 39 drug cases with only 26 arrests. So a few less drug cases, but our percentage of arrests per drug case has increased in the last year and a half. And for just a little more data, in the last year and a half, our department, because there are a lot of numbers, you got a lot, Greg, from the sheriff and stuff like that. The Hillsdale Police Department has arrested 320 people in the last, that's arrestees in the last year and a half, with 374 total charges against them. And I did check, because you got numbers on active warrants that were outstanding in our county. Going back 10 years for the Hillsdale Police Department, we only have 64 active warrants in the 64.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember a number of 700 being thrown out. Again, I didn't say anything because I didn't have the data. That could be countywide, including the courts, but some of these 64 are even the court warrants that come back to our department. These are our original cases. and only 6 of those 64 are felony ones. And that's the data we can pull through our secure Michigan portal database, and we also called the state and had them confirm that, so that is an accurate number as of July 10th. So I just wanted to assure the council and our public that there's not a lack of law and order. That's why I pulled these numbers to share. We are continually with the limitations from the Jail Reform Act, where we cannot make custodial arrests on misdemeanors, except for drunk or drug driving, domestic violence, assault type complaints. That we have continued even through that and still have made this number of arrests in that year and a half. But we've talked about the officers being displeased. The jail capacity is number one. Even if they got rid of that jail reform bill to where that was off, people still had to postpone all this stuff. Without capacity at the jail, it's not gonna make a big difference. So if there was something this body could do for local law enforcement is somehow support that or somehow communicate that need, whether you, and I know the commissioners have spoke here. I have met with other law enforcement leaders and the sheriff and commissioners. We've got all kinds of information. The sheriff has shared that information with you. We've shared it at the public safety committee meetings, the homeless meetings, homeless task force meetings. That's gotta be number one. When there is an incident going, whether it's we come across somebody with felony warrants and we're not allowed to take them to jail because of their capacity, they might be committing another crime at the same time, and without being able to take that immediate enforcement, our guys don't like it. People on the streets like it. But then we're dealing with them again. So really, jail capacity is number one. I mean, that is something they had in their report, and that really has to be the priority before we could step up anything to make any bigger impact than we are now.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the Chief? Councilman Palladino.
Of the 31 that you've arrested, do you know how many have received bond, how many were kept in jail until their trial, and then the prosecution rate?
No, the only data that I would be able to pull is the final disposition. I would not be able to pull the information on whether they posted bond or released at arraignment or anything like that.
If you were to arrest someone for, or find someone, excuse me, pull someone over for failure to appear on larceny, would you be able to house them in the jail? Okay.
Any more questions for the Chief?
And us operating in jail, I don't even want to have that discussion. I think I read in there somehow our participation in either a local jail or the county jail or something, or maybe that was just my interpretation, but believe me, we don't want to get into that business.
Is that facility co-op being used? The prison, the old?
I just read a headline today's Branch County built a new jail.
Yeah.
And there was just a headline today that they're beginning demolition on the old jail, so they will be moving everything to their new jail.
It's something to do with, like tri-counties, 3, 4 counties get together and have one hold itself.
Stryker, Ohio is the only example I know of that does that. It's out of state, and multiple counties utilize it, but it's privatized. But so that's not that far. I've been down there to pick people up.
So we can go build it, Bruce.
Any more questions for the Chief?
We've also, we're not having an issue yet this summer. I've talked to the officers. I've not heard any calls about any encampments on city property. I do know some of the people from the homeless population that spoke here last year are no longer residents in our area. Some are housed, sadly some are incarcerated, and I know of at least one that is deceased.
Yeah, no, I'm aware, the no camping ordinance was effective as to what we were trying to achieve from it, but I mean, it's a Band-Aid, but you know. Okay, Chief, any more questions for the Chief? Thank you for the information, sir. We appreciate it. Okay, we'll move into general public comment. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium. And you may speak on whatever your heart so desires. The podium is now open.
Yeah, Dennis Wayne, Sky, 34 Garden Hills. Most of you know that I usually get up here and I speak for the lower class people, the people that have problems. One thing I wanted to speak of, what Michelle was bringing up with doubling the funds to the park is going to limit some of the people that have low incomes be able to utilize the park by doubling it. You know, I can understand raising it some, but doubling it, I think, is outrageous. You know, even some of us elderly people, we like to go out there and just drive through and see what's going on, but fortunately, we've never been charged anything, so. But, you know, for doing that. But, you know, to the families that have little kids that might be on welfare or something, to have something to take their kids out to play in and do something, to utilize the lake and everything out there. If you double it, that might be taking out food out of their mouths. That might be taking clothes off their back because they can't afford that. Now, you might think that's funny, but if you got $100 in your pocket and you don't think anything about it because you got $100 in you, but look at the families that barely have $1 in their pockets. So, some of the things to look at. The other thing is the jail. I don't agree with adding on to it. What that's doing is using up more of us homeowners and taxpayers around here to keep bringing our taxes up while we're taking care of those that, you know, if they're felons, yes. If they're high misdemeanors, yes. But when we put people in jail for, because they didn't have proof of insurance with them or they didn't have this or that, you know, that's stupid, you know, to utilize that and use the people's money for that. It's time that we, you know, get off this thing of looking at, you know, what are we gonna do, what's this and that, but look at the whole picture and start from the bottom and looking up or from the top looking down. It doesn't matter which way you go. How is it gonna work? Who is gonna suffer from that? So, that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Any more public comment?
Can I hand out some pictures?
Sure, just make sure the clerk gets a copy too, sir.
My name is Russell Miller. I kind of got a few issues I wanted to go over. Anyway, me and my wife have lived at, my wife is 17. I gotta get my breath here, sorry guys. Hi, my name is Russell Miller. My wife Jessica Miller, 17 years, is back here. I've lived at 9 Lake Street all my life. My mother lived there, and yeah, obviously she passed and I got the house and paid for it. I've always made efforts to keep the house maintained, upgraded, and, you know, remodeled, etc. I'm getting off here, I'm sorry guys.
Okay, bye.
Anyway, remodeling can be really expensive, and we all know that, and materials, we know nothing goes as planned. Anyway, I've penny pinched for years to get this, to do work on my house. For instance, 15 years ago roughly, I poured a concrete drive. It's a half circle drive, And I landscaped it. Then I saved up money and did a 24 by 24 addition. Then lastly, I did a concrete porch with a handicap ramp, you know, planning to live there the rest of my life. You know, we're not getting any younger, you know, I need a handicap ramp. And it's all complementing my circle driveway. Anyway, as you know, we've had the construction started on Willow Street or May 29th, or on or around May 29th. They put sewer lines down, and unfortunately, it was super deep. They weren't planning on changing the gutter or anything. They were just talking about gutter or curb. They were just doing just the sewer line. I want to kind of enhance that. Anyway, I haven't had the privilege to park in my driveway for several weeks. I'm going to say 8 to 10 weeks. I don't want to sit here and tell you wrong, because I live on a corner lot, and you know, with construction, they park all their equipment up front and out back and along the side and things. But anyway, we've been really good with the contractors and offered to let them use our hoses, etc., etc. Anyway, I have, and I'm getting way off, my wife's gonna kill me, but we had to walk 100 yards approximately to bring our groceries into our house and all that. Anyway, July 1st, we come home from work around 4 or 5 o'clock, and we're talking to the contractors, and because you know they're nice guys. And next thing you know, they said, "Hey, we're pouring curbs tomorrow, and we're taking away part of your Circle Drive." And we're like, "No, this is, you know, once again, it's been this way for 50 years, and we poured, landscaped, and did everything around this, you know." And so I tried getting a hold of Jason, and you know, I didn't know how, you know, straight out. So I told the super of the contract, the crew, and you know, "Hey, this isn't right." And anyway, I couldn't get a hold of him. Finally, I have cameras on my house, and I went through the cameras, and I finally saw Jason down there, went down there and talked to him about it, and he's like, "You just, no, it can't happen, it's gotta be this way because of the stop sign, and you know, there's no such thing as grandfathered, and et cetera," and there is, I mean, but I went off my notes, I'm sorry, you guys, but I'm talking from the heart, that means more. Anyway, then, so the next day, they started pouring around noon. My wife took off work, came home. This happened to be July 2nd. Bless his heart, the deputy that got shot. Everybody was gone to that, so she tried to get with the city manager, and he wasn't. So eventually, he wasn't available. He called, and then he's like, "I'll try to get down to come see you." He came down with Jason, and he didn't really say anything to us. He just left it all in Jason's hands and said, "No, this can't be done. This can't be done." And I just feel that it's, you know, I feel like, to be honest with you guys, I've been here for 48 years soon. I feel like I'm being violated on somebody coming into your place. You spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, in the hundreds of thousands, and all of a sudden just everything gets ripped up, you know? No offense, I'm not trying to badmouth Jason, but he don't live there. He didn't pay for it. So I get a person that don't live there come in and make changes for my livelihood and the way my life is and my investment. And you know, no offense, but it was just a split decision he made. The secondly, no communication. You know, I hear that they're going to do this from no offense to the guys, but a contractor that's just one of the workers. He's not even one of the high up workers. You know. And then from there they went around and they took the front curbs out. Well, there's a sidewalk in front. You know, it's a necessity that they have to put a curb over one of my other driveways, but the sidewalk that goes to the road, they got a drop that long, and you can see it in the pictures. You know, but it's a necessity that this has to be that way. It doesn't make sense, you guys, and I'm sorry, I'm speaking from the heart, and I apologize for the notes. And then there you can look at, there's 84 Union Street, which was done just a few years ago. I spoke with a gentleman there. He's got a U-shaped drive, approximately 9 foot from the stop sign. Not a problem. He's got a circle drive. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry, you guys, to really sit here. But I really was curious to say to somebody, just come down and take a look and see what's going on. As you can tell, this is a very emotional thing. And I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm thinking about leaving Hillsdale because of this, just because I feel like I've been violated really bad. And as you can tell, So thank you, I apologize.
Fine. Thank you, Russell. Any more public comment?
Evening, Robert Eichler's of Beale Township. I listened to Chief Hefner here, and I have been over to the Branch County Jail and at the commissioners as well at Branch County, and talking about the amount of people that is at that jail. It has been refused on many occasions not to place any prisoners from Hillsdale over there because of cost. Costs ranging from 35, 65, 105. That's getting to be numbers, but when you have an arrest of someone that's on drugs, and we're doing this catch and release of anyone that's on drugs, they're gonna go out and find somebody's garage that's gonna be easy to get into. My problem is, again, I've looked at where we used to be at with the sheriff's department, and I'm saying absolutely not. I mean, if you wanna go to, I believe it's the chair, Mark Wiley, anybody can get a millage from that guy, because it's not his money, he spends. So if we look at what we can do, we've advocated for, is altering that jail that we have. That means we already have all, say, the office area. We can extend that downward. We can also manufacture a way that we can have an offset, say, for the women down in one particular area. We looked at 22 million. We looked at how much in the cost, what it would change. We wanted to have an alternative place for the actual sheriffs. Those that need to be separated from the jail, we used to have 911. We used to have the officers doing 911. We can take all these cars, all these officers, and we can place them up there by the 911 and place that building. We have better access. Time frame between getting to US 12, getting from here to 12 is crazy. Getting from here down to 12, going to Reading is crazy. But you can get down to 49 just a hell of a lot faster. There was a lot of organization that could be taken. I don't think the construction of it was going to be that harmful, but I don't think that going to the public again, we are looking at quite a devastation of things that are going to be happening in the future. That means these millages are going to crush a lot of people. Are we going to be looking at a recession? Yeah, I think so. And if we are, there's going to be a lot of people hurting. And I think we need to protect as much as we can of the people and get rid of these millage. We can take these millages, we can put those back. If we have a real big problem, we can push that right into this next spring. We don't need to have all these millages. Once again, I mean, just go see the chair of the commissioners. We've got money, we spend it before we got it. Anyway, thank you, have a good night.
Thank you, Bob. Any more public comment?
Evening. Scott Sessions, former mayor of Hillsdale. In an article in the Hillsdale Daily News written by Corey Murray, it was written that Hillsdale Mayor Stockford would soon pen a letter to the Hillsdale College expressing city frustrations over lost potential tax revenue over the years. By Hillsdale Mayor Stockford announcing this through the paper, he would pen a letter to Hillsdale College. This made it an official city Hillsdale business. Since you made it a Hillsdale city business, you owe it to the residents of the city to bring forth this letter for the residents to see. Many residents have called you out for not displaying this letter to the public. You need to put this letter out and on the next city council agenda for all Hillsdale residents to see. If you do not do this, then we will all know that you did not tell the truth and the statements that you made are not true. We will know that Mayor Adam Stockford does not deliver on his promises and that he should not be trusted. In the same article, Mayor Adam Stockford is quoted as saying, "We cannot keep doing business like this, or we're not going to dig ourselves out of the hole that we're in." So in 7 years since you have been mayor of Hillsdale, your statement indicates that if Hillsdale College does not pay a payment in lieu of taxes pilot, then the city of Hillsdale will be digging itself in a hole. You have also said in other instances that you have seen the city heading into bankruptcy in 3 years had you not been elected mayor. This is also a false statement, as the city of Hillsdale has never been close to being in bankruptcy. The city of Hillsdale was never going bankrupt. Before my term as mayor, the Hillsdale fund balance as June 30th, 2013 was 18%. The next year, 2014, my first full year, was at 20%. Then it went to 2015, it went to 19.9. In 2016, it was 18.66. And in 2017, my last year in office, it went all the way up to 24.74. No way it was in a bankruptcy. Hillsdale, that was taken from the Hillsdale City audits from 2013 to 2017. June 30th, 2017, as the close of the fiscal year, the city governmental funds reported a combining ending fund balance of $3,879,307. That was up $760,233, or 24% prior to the prior years. The city of Hillsdale was doing very well with a great fund balance when I left office in 2017, and the city was set in motion to be very successful for the forthcoming future. Lastly, on May 6, 2014, Hillsdale City Council meeting, Bruce Sharp stated the following to Mayor Stockford: "Since you are against special assessments, how are you going to pay to fix the streets?" The mayor stated that we have all the money to fix the streets. City manager said that the mayor is not correct, is wrong with this, as the money the city has won't fix the subdivision. Now the mayor just said the city is in the hole if Hillsdale College did not agree to a pilot program in 2013, and then states in 2024 that the city of Hillsdale has enough money to fix the streets. So what is it? Are we out of money, or do you have a bunch of money? You cannot trust a single word that this mayor is saying as he speaks out of both sides of his mouth. After 7 years, Mayor Stockford still does not have a viable plan to fix the streets without using the money that has been generated by other city council members voting yes on either special assessment or millages. Without the other city council members having the guts to vote yes on these types of items, what would our streets look like? He has no plan other than voting no on the funding mechanisms for these. In closing, Mayor Stockford needs to make the letter he drafted to the Hillsdale College public. If he does not put the letter in the next meeting agenda to be discussed at the next meeting, Hillsdale City Council meeting, then we know that he did not tell the truth about the letter. If Mayor Stockford does not respond to these questions with an answer in the next City Council meeting, then we know his word is no good. He cannot be trusted, and Hillsdale needs to wake up about this guy, as his words mean nothing. He is all talk and does not do what he says he's going to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Yep.
Any more public comment?
Ted Jansen, one of our Hillsdale City. I'd like to thank the chief for the excellent job he's doing, and to dissuade the innuendo that there's drug houses all over. Him and his guys are doing a great job, and we should thank them for that, and wish them well, and be safe, too. We really appreciate you guys. In reference to Rusty, I've known him since 1990, and he's a very serious individual, and I can understand his frustration that he has a driveway, and the city comes along and says, well, guess what, we're gonna move it on you. And too bad. Just eat it, be happy. Also, you put it in the sidewalk. I saw the photos, but I go, where's the handicap access for that sidewalk going onto the street? It was, I guess, maybe when it applies to certain areas of the city, or whatever. It's just unfortunate that a citizen like him has to deal with this, and the city just doesn't respond because, well, maybe he doesn't live on the Ward 1 up on Hillsdale Street. He lives on Ward 4. That's your bailiwick, Mr. Palladino. I hope you help this gentleman, because he's worked hard all his life, because I've known him. And I'd just like to thank everybody for their time. And once again, I'd like to thank the police for everything they do for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Dad. Any more public comment? Seeing none, we will close the podium. Got no city manager's report tonight because Dave is not here. So, council comment. Anybody have anything?
There was Hillsdale had a hostel this past week, and some pilots who were pilots that were married, they'd met when they were flying for Air Canada. They stored their plane there, and they were speaking very good about how the city airport is running. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, that they were very appreciative of all their ability to be able to store their plane and all sorts of other things that were provided to them. So
That's awesome. That's great news, Gary. Yes, sir.
I want to thank Katie and her integrity she showed last week, Monday. I came down to see her and asked where my absentee ballot was and my wife's. And she was about to mail them out. So I said, can I have both of them? And she said, you can have yours, but you cannot have your wife's. It has to be mailed. She followed the rule of the law. Well, we made a mistake, we brought them in, they were spoiled. She followed the rule of the law again, and we got it corrected. So we do have a city clerk that does follow the rule of the law with the elections. And I appreciate what you did. Thank you very much.
Great job, Katie. Any more council comment? Councilman Morrissey.
Yeah, I got a request from someone who lives in the city to see if we could find out whether, how much money city residents give out to the state and federal governments. And I was asked our resident economist, Councilman Wolfram, how that might be, such information might be obtained, and he suggested contacting the Mackinac Center, so I'll recommend that that be done as at least a preliminary way of figuring out, because we do take and give a lot more money out than we ever get back, that's for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Morrissey. Any more council comment? Got one thing, the Dawn, Friends of the Dawn and Hillsdale Renaissance are going to have the River Raisin Ragtime Review. That's July 20th, the doors open at 7, and that's at the Dawn. Drinks will be available for purchase from the Dawn's Bar. You guys have saw that the Dawn's part of the social district now, which is even more exciting, so all great stuff for the downtown. Advance tickets are $20 per person, $300 for a reserve table, and that's 10 seats, or $120 for a reserve table of 4. Anybody have anything else? Councilman Wolfram?
well, just to add to that, it's interesting that the Dawn Theater started in 1919, and this music, ragtime music, was a transition from basically the black blues music to jazz. And this period is 1919 is when that music really came into fruition. And so it's sort of interesting that it's happening at the Dawn, which started in 1919. And there are 13 members, I guess, of the band. So it's quite a ragtime review.
You said hope it all still alive.
Councilman Pelletier.
Yeah, a couple quick comments. This was brought up several months ago about the idea of eliminating the special assessments and how no roads can be built without that, so we'll address it. The suggestion was not to take the $3 million surplus and fix one neighborhood. Right? The suggestion is that, well, the special assessment for the Westwood project was about $130,000, somewhere in that range. To allow that money to collect interest, which it currently is, at about 5%, and to pull from that amount, $120,000 every time we need it to cover the special assessment portion, so that there wouldn't be additional taxes on the residents. Of course, if you blow it all on one project, then you have to reinstate special assessments, but that is obviously not the suggestion, and I don't know if they're just not catching that side of the argument, or I don't know. The other point is that, yes, there is not a general breakdown of law and order in the county in that the average citizen is endangered. Thankfully, we are very safe here unless you are trying to get yourself into trouble in Hillsdale County, it seems. And that's great. But the inability to arrest people for things like failure to appear to court is actually a general breakdown of law and order in the county. That is a serious offense. That means you are simply ignoring the government. The government has no ability to enforce its laws and to punish criminals properly. So low-level things like failure to appear really do lead to things like the death of an officer. That man should have been in prison that day on multiple charges. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that, Councilman Palladino. Any more council comment?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Morrissey to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. It is adjourned.